Game 2 tonight, and you can hear it all right here on 97.3 ESPN. Michael Kaskey Blomain will be covering it for CBS Sports. And he, like all guests, appears via the Boardwalk Honda hotline as the Sixers got smacked early in that game, came back, fell short. But what are some of the key changes that we should expect to see tonight? Michael Kaskey Blomain has been covering the Sixers all season long and the NBA playoffs, and he joins us now here on the Sports Bash. MKB, what's up, my man?
What's up, Mike? How you doing?
So you're there and you're seeing what's happening early. And at what point were you saying, hey, it's time to make an adjustment in this game?
A lot sooner than Doc Rivers, apparently. No, honestly, it was about midway through the first quarter when it was, became pretty evident that Danny Green was not the guy to have on Trae Young. And at that point, it kind of baffled me, for the rest of the first half that no adjustment was made. So, to me, it was something that I noticed within, several minutes of that game starting.
So do you expect then tonight, I asked you that question first, because do you expect him tonight to start Danny Green out again there, but have a shorter leash?
No, I don't think so, Mike. I think this is the type of thing, they lost home court advantage already, lost the first game at home. I think you got to go with, obviously, a different option. Ben said after last game that he wants to be the guy that's on Trae for the majority of the game. I would be pretty surprised if he does not start out on Trae at this game. I think it was a situation where it became pretty clear that Danny just, didn't have the foot speed. He was getting beat by, blown by every time. And so much of the damage that the Hawks did in that game was the direct result of, Trae beating that first defender and then either finding, Capella or John Collins for lobs, or the guys having to help in off the shooters because, Danny was beat and then he would kick out to the corner. So to me, having Ben on him will at least limit and make it more difficult for him to get into the paint, which, whereas things snowballed for Atlanta once he gets in there.
Now, isn't the concern from Doc and the Sixers that you put Ben on him, he could pick up a couple fouls early? That's where Trae Young excels. He's the master of drawing fouls. So you can pick up a couple ticky-tacks early. I feel like that's why he didn't want to start Simmons on him early in the game.
Yeah, it definitely was. And it's also just to save him for, down the road in that same game. Doc did that several times throughout the regular season. We saw it with Bradley Beal, with James Harden, where he would start, a different defender, be it Danny or Tobias or somebody else early on, and then go to Ben in the second half. But this is, for all the marbles, as they say, you definitely don't want to fall behind this team 2-0 and lose both games in Philly. So to me, if you're Doc, you tell Ben, listen, you need to be disciplined. We want you to apply the pressure that you were doing in the second half of game one. Obviously, Trae's going to look for those fouls. He's great at, drawing the defender in and going up and getting the ticky-tack fouls. But, Ben is an elite-level defender. He's a finalist for Defensive Player of the Year for a reason. And to me, if you're the coach, you have to say, listen, this is going to be your responsibility. You need to be disciplined. You need to, not reach and just do what you can.
Any thought, MKB, that they would go with Thibault over Green and do that in the lineup?
It would make some sense, but I really don't think so, Mike. Doc doesn't seem to me to be the type of guy that would panic and change, his starting lineup that brought them a lot of success the entire year. I don't think he's the coach that would just really quickly make that adjustment. And also you have to consider the opposite end of things. Danny, whether or not he's knocking down his shots, he's known and respected as a guy that can do that, where, by default, the defenders are going to be paying attention to him. When you bring in Matisse, then you've got two guys out there in Ben and Matisse that are not, known or respected as floor spacers, and you're going to want to have as much space for Joel to operate. So I don't think there'll be an adjustment to the starting lineup. I think maybe there'll be changes quicker in terms of rotation patterns and things like that. But no, I do think Danny will stay in the starting spot.
Yeah, I agree with what you said on offense. Is that he has made a lot of big shots for this team over the last month, and you can't take that. He was 0 for 5 the other night. Can't take that element off the court. That's the balance here that I find to be very difficult. Is he has been a big part of why their offense works. You take him off, I think that minimizes the value of Ben Simmons on offense. That minimizes what they do offensively. They work offensively because they have two high-level three-point shooters. You take one out of the mix, and that allows teams to sag off Ben Simmons and take Curry out more. So you almost have to have those three guys together, Curry, Green, Simmons.
Yeah, and especially something that I want to see more of in this game is I want to see more of Joel in the post early on. I would like to see him establish himself down there. I was rewatching the game earlier today, and it took almost 6 minutes into that first quarter before we saw Joel get a post touch. As soon as he did, the double came, and he kicked it across the court to Seth Curry for a three. So to me, that's your biggest advantage as a team is Joel in the low post. It's not the Joel of the past couple of years where, getting him the ball and then having him doubled could be an issue. He handles the double teams really well, and that, creates opportunities for others, or it gets him into the paint where he can either, finish or get to the foul line. So I want to see him in the post more. And in order for that to work, exactly like you were just saying, Mike, that's why you need Danny out there. You need the space he generates. And Matisse, as great as he has been defensively, he just doesn't generate that same space at the offensive end at this point.
One thing Trae Young is a good defender. But that didn't factor into this game. Can the Sixers do more of trying to get him on the ball?
100%, Mike. I think that's absolutely one of the biggest adjustments that they need to make on the offensive end. I think they talked about that after the game a little bit. Tobias specifically said that they could do a better job of, basically hunting him on the offensive end, forcing him into switches, making him, defend a guy like Tobias in the post, making him defend a guy like Ben on the perimeter or in the post, and just, generally making him work on the defensive end. It'll take energy from him, potentially get him in, pick up some fouls, maybe get him into foul trouble. And like you said, that's his by far the weak part of his game is on the defensive end. And I don't think the Sixers took advantage of that, really at all in game one. And I definitely think that's something they should, zone in on in the second game.
Yeah, I mean, because you look at the mismatches, they don't really have a guy to defend Ben Simmons. I mean, that's an area where they struggle. And he was mildly aggressive, I guess. He got some layups. He had 19 points, I think it was, 7, attempts, 10 free throws, only made 3. That's a factor. That became a factor. The hack of Ben and all that stuff, yada, yada, that became a factor because he shot 30% from the line. If he shoots 60% from the line, they probably have a chance to win that game.
Yeah, it came into play just like it did in the Wizards series, Mike. It wasn't the main reason or the sole reason that they lost, but it factored into it. And it's, at this point, there's nothing else that can be said. He needs to be better from the line. He does a lot of great things on the floor. Floor spacing isn't one of them, but at least being able to have some confidence and shoot 50 or 60%, obviously ideally closer to 70% from the line. That it's just something that he needs to do as a superstar caliber player. We saw it with Giannis and the Bucks last night where he struggled immensely to convert on his free throws. And, when you're at that level in these clutch situations, your skills are going to be important and your flaws are going to be exposed. And that's, unfortunately what's happening to Ben, and there's nothing that they can do about it except tell, he needs to step up and knock him down at a better clip.
No doubt. I mean, but you're going to see the hack of Ben probably again. I thought that backfired on them a little bit in game one. They're hacking him when they're up. They're stopping the clock. So I thought that kind of backfired on them a little bit there. But it's the course of the game. You can't just get these opportunities. Even if you make 1 out of 2, you got to step up and make one. You can't miss them both every time you step to the line. MKB's with me from CBS Sports, covers the NBA. Sixers-Hawks game 2 tonight at 7:30 right here on 97.3 ESPN. Tom McGinnis has the call. Tobias Harris, what do you think of his role in the game? Game 1 on Sunday?
I thought he played well. I think he could have played better, obviously, but I don't think his play was, one of the first few reasons that came to my head when I thought of all the things that went wrong. I think he could have been a little bit more aggressive at times. And like I said, he said after the game, he thought he personally and the team as a whole could have done a better job in hunting mismatches, which is where I think, that's where he really showed, like this season specifically, he really stood out when he'd get a smaller guy on him on the blocker in the post and he'd back him down and score right over him. He could have done more of that, especially like we were just saying with, getting Trae Young on him. I'd like to see him do more of that tonight. But, overall, he's been solid in this postseason so far. I don't have, many complaints about his play.
I thought he played good, not great. He was like
right.
He was half Tobias from last year and half Tobias from then. He had moments, and then he kind of reverted back. It's like, I want to see him be a little bit more decisive and aggressive. He had moments in the middle of that game, I feel like. But then when things were going good, it felt like he was going good. One thing, that all-bench lineup. You tweeted the other day, I think it was, that he keeps saying it and you keep waiting that he's not going to do it. Is he going to keep doing it?
I mean, it really is that situation. All year, I assumed once the playoffs rolled around that it would stop. And then we got to that Wizards series, and then I'm like, okay, it's the Wizards. this is a team that they can beat. He's just trying to save some minutes for his guys. I thought it would stop, but that first half of that last game was brutal.
The Nets are rolling 8 guys, right?
Yeah, eight guys, and other than garbage time. That's how most of these teams are. I don't think there's any other team left in this league right now playing an 11-man lineup, consistent minutes.
Yeah, I mean, I don't know. Do you? He did say the other night that he probably shouldn't play all 5 guys together, right?
Yeah, he did concede that.
So, I feel like you have to have either Simmons, Harris, or Embiid on the floor almost at all times.
Yeah, absolutely. I mean, again, I would be very surprised if we saw that again. They were outscored over like a 4-minute period by 10 points. They had 5 turnovers, no field goals. This is what they always say. This is the playoffs. The starters play more minutes. The rotations get shorter, and that's the case for a reason. The Hawks, did not play as many deep guys at the same time as the Sixers did, and it ended up being a huge advantage for them, and ultimately probably the deciding factor in the game. They were down 10. When Doc went with the all bench, they were outscored by 10 points. At that point, you're down by 20 in the first half, and they really, they tried their best in the second half, but they could never dig out of that hole.
Michael, are the Bucks done?
Yeah, they're toast.
Just done.
Put some butter or some jelly on them because they're toast. Which I'm shocked and disappointed, but watching them play yesterday, you don't lose by 50 in a playoff game like that, the way they played, and they just don't seem to have any answers either.
Is it the realization that we have put the best collection that we have had, and we still aren't good enough?
Unfortunately, too, it starts with Giannis. It's the same story. You can put guys around him, whoever you want. He's, he got some numbers in these games, but if you're watching him, he's just not a go-to guy down the stretch. He looks exactly the same as he's looked. He's, you can put a plan in place to defend him. He can't shoot. He struggles at the foul line, and everything kind of just stems from there.
It's very much like the difference is the Sixers have kind of come to terms with Ben Simmons' limitations, and then they've accentuated his positives and said, we're not going to ask you to do this. The Bucks still need him to do things he can't do.
And he's also the best player on their team. The fact that, if Ben Simmons was the best player on a team that was built around him, I think you'd see a lot of these same issues that you're seeing with Milwaukee. Luckily, obviously, in Philadelphia, you have Joel Embiid, who is the go-to guy there.
That Suns team, legit?
Yeah, they look great last night. They have all the pieces, at least to make a run here. Obviously, they got the veteran leadership, and Chris Paul and Jay Crowder's been playing great. The star and Devin Booker. And DeAndre Ayton, to me, is one of the stories of the playoffs. He was great in that first round against the Lakers. He, did a great job on Anthony Davis when he was in there. And then last night against Jokic, Jokic got his numbers as he's going to do, but he made him work for them. And then he made him work on the defensive end too. So to me, DeAndre Ayton has been a real key for the whole Suns run.
I'm telling you, man, it feels like, I said this a couple days ago with no LeBron. I guess if the Nets win, you got Durant but like it feels like there's kind of a changing here where a month ago, I would see there's only 5 teams that can win. The Lakers, the Clippers, the Bucks, the Nets, and the Sixers because they have, like, MVP, best player on the best team level players. Well, LeBron's out. Giannis is going to be out. You got Embiid. You got Durant. You got Kawhi. If somebody else gets in, it feels like, there's going to be, like, this new feeling of, like, this new group of guys who have moved to another level.
Yeah, not only a new group of guys, but a new group of teams. I'm sure you probably saw the stat that's been passed around. Of all the teams remaining in the playoffs right now, the Sixers are the team that's won the title most recently out of all those teams. And, that I wasn't even alive in '83 when they won. So it's, all these teams that haven't even either have never been to won a title or that haven't won it in a really long time. So it's, like you said, it's a kind of a changing of the guard, new young players coming up and kind of stepping up and taking the throne and some new teams. Finally, we're seeing some teams that we just haven't seen in this situation before.
Yeah, because you're going to see, I think now you're going to be like, whoa, they have Booker. They have Trae Young. You've got Donovan Mitchell. Because you have those guys, you can win a title. We're entering this year and entering these playoffs, Michael. I don't think we felt that way. Those guys just weren't ready. Maybe they are.
Yeah, to me, I picked the Nets and the Clippers going to the finals heading into the playoffs. I'm going to stick with that for right now. And I do think that the fact that they have the more seasoned guys, obviously, and, KD, Kyrie, Harden, they have the experience. Kawhi, Paul George, they have that playoff experience. I do think that will matter, but this can be kind of like the year where those other young guys that you're talking about get that experience that to build on. So like next year, they're in a better position to contend for the title.
Sixers, Hawks, 7:30, Game 2, MKB. Who wins?
I mean, you got to go with the Sixers, right? I think that if they play, make some of the adjustments that we were talking about and play with the intensity that we saw them play during the last 20 minutes of that game on Sunday, that, they should be able to take care of business because they obviously don't want to go down 2-0 and lose both of the first games in Philly.
Michael Kaskey Blomain covers the NBA for CBS Sports at The Real Mike KB, and he, like all guests, appeared via the Boardwalk Honda hotline. All right, man, we'll see you.
All right, Mike, thanks.